Welcome back to the EDC vlog episode 2, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do flat lay product photography. But first I have to ship out some giveaway items as well as some knives that I sold on Instagram. If you're not already following me on Instagram, it's every.day.minimalist, and I sell a bunch of my gear on there. So yeah, I'm just going to bring you guys along with for the first half of the day. Let's get it. Well, that was easy. My Forerunner. Dude, why are you yelling at me? It's probably because I don't have a seatbelt.
Sorry.
But it's across the street, so it's not that big of a deal. Getting some steel cut oatmeal and matcha for Ashley for breakfast, and I'll probably find some food for me as well. There's the trusty old Forerunner. I think she's locked up. There's a twin. There's a twin Forerunner. Look at that. Look at that. Pulled up to Rancheritos, which is carne asada fries, man. I am so down. I'm just gonna put the camera down right here. These fries are insanely bad for my health, but they're insanely good for my stomach.
Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.
But yeah, you guys saw in the B-roll, I am carrying the brand new Chavez RCK9. What that represents is Raymond Chavez knives, and I believe it's because it's the 9th model from what I was reading. The cool thing is this is actually a smaller knife than the 229, and that's kind of my biggest gripe of the 229 is how bulky and heavy it is. Whenever I'm wearing athletic apparel, it just tends to pull my pants down in that sense because of how heavy they are. I mean, I think the 229 kickstop is like 6-point-something ounces, which is insane. This guy is a much better size form. It's a very similar overall size as the Oz Machine Co. Rosie. It is much heavier. I mean, it feels like it's double the knife, but that's why you get a Chavez knife, right? These things are sick. I love the fact that they deleted the screws on this, so that way it's just a really clean skull clip, and for you guys that hate on the skull clip, you won't really know what it's all about until you own a Chavez knife. But yeah, I'm heading back to the studio so that way you guys can learn some photography tips on how to do flat lay photography, because a lot of you guys have been asking me how to do product photography, and there are like no videos on YouTube on how to do that. So yeah, I'm gonna show you guys my style. Let's go. All right, welcome back into the studio, guys. I'm gonna show you guys how I do my everyday minimalist style flat lay product photography. A lot of you guys have been messaging me and DMing me on Instagram like, hey Brandon, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I feel like this video is gonna really represent how I actually do my product photography. Flat lay photos have been a staple of everyday minimalist, and I feel like it's finally time to share with you guys all of my pro tips and maybe some of the gear that I use in order to achieve this type of photo. I'd love for you guys to learn something from this video, and if you do take some of these tips and do post it on Instagram, I'd love to check them out. Use hashtag EDMFlatlay and tag me at every.day.minimalist on the photo, and I want to have a chance to see what you guys are putting into practice. So I'm going to start off by telling you guys what you'll need in order to achieve an everyday minimalist style flat lay photo. The first thing that you're going to need is a flat surface, whether it's the ground, a desk, if you have a pull-out desk, whatever it is, just make sure that it's completely level, so that way when you go to throw on your background, which is my next thing, foam core. This stuff is amazing. You can get it at Walmart for like $4. I get all my foam core at Hobby Lobby here in Utah, but essentially this is just the background to your photo. You want to make sure that you have plenty of surface area, because when we go to frame this actual shot, it's going to give it a lot more perspective. Next up, you're going to want a decent light source, whether it's a professional studio light like this one or natural light coming from the sun through a window. Light is going to be the key to any photography. The reason why I use a dedicated studio light is because this is gonna be a lot more controllable. I have a pretty large softbox here, and this is gonna soften up the photo and make it so that it's not super punchy and contrasty. We wanna show some details within the shadows. For those of you guys wondering, the light that I'm using for this shoot is gonna be the Amaran 150C. That's an RGB light along with an Aperture Light Dome SE softbox modifier. This is then attached to a C-stand, and yeah, this lighting setup can be very expensive, so you guys don't need to work with this. You can just substitute this for natural light in a window. The next step forward after you've got your background set, you've got your desk, you've got your lights, is what are you gonna be photographing? I assume it's gonna be something product related or EDC related. Whatever it might be, all this stuff is gonna apply into flat lay photography. The primary subject that I'm gonna be photographing today is the Knoll Knives Prototype Ghoul. This is a brand new knife, and Sean wanted me to take some pictures. So this is gonna be the primary subject. The first thing I'm gonna do is take my product or subject and center it as possible to your background. Now, I could go with different colors like this yellow, I could go with the blue, I can go with a light blue, whatever background color I want. I just decided to go with white because titanium looks good against white. So now that I have my knife centered, I really wanna bring this photo to life by adding in some more gear and make it feel super, super refined and clean. The way that I'm gonna do that is add in more tools and more gear to really just make it an emphasis that, hey, this is the centerpiece and this is the stuff complementing that specific subject. This is where I'm gonna try to best convey weight within a photo. So imagine having a box right here, and I'm trying to fit all this gear within the box. Now, when I think about it, I'm thinking of different types of gear that will match that titanium aesthetic. So we're going for a monochrome type of look. So I've gone ahead and grabbed my Combat Beads bit driver. We're gonna set this right here next to the handle because the overall length is about the same as the handle. Now I have a Swiss Army knife. This is the Raven, the Pirate collab piece. And I'll put that right next to the bit driver and just kind of line things up. And by the way, when I shoot like this, everything has to be perfect in terms of symmetry. So we're thinking of lines, we're thinking of just balance in weights of products, because I'll show you here in just a second, you can actually bring a lot of weight within the photo without using a super heavy object. Let me set this up real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm gonna pause real quick and show you guys a super awesome hack. This stuff right here, this fun tack from Loctite, is absolutely perfect when you're using it with a cylinder type of object or a round object. All you do is you take some of that fun tack and then stick it on the bottom of this pen, for example. This will make it so that the pen doesn't roll all over the place and you can get it exactly where you want it. We're actually gonna take the Big Ideas Designs tie field watch and throw it into the shot as well. And I'm gonna set that right here to give it some sort of symmetry. So when I was talking about weight, you want to think of the weight of the photo. So basically, if you have a really heavy object somewhere in the photo, you want to counterbalance it by putting something else there. Now, it doesn't actually have to be a heavy object. I'm actually going to use these playing cards that I got at Barnes & Noble, and the sheer size of these playing cards is what's going to really help balance out that photo. I usually take an Ace of Spades card and then just a random card and throw it onto the flat lay. So what I'm going to do now is take a look at the frame and see how everything is lining up. This is going to be super vital in terms of making a very balanced photo. So I'm going to look at the weight of objects, the size of objects, what they actually are in terms of the object, and then make some fine tweaks. There's going to be some portions of the actual flat lay that don't really match up with other parts of the photo. So what I'm going to do real quick is adjust everything and then show you what the final layout is going to look like and explain what it all is. So I think I got it to where I like it. Check this out. Just check this out. We just had to rebalance everything and kind of bring it all together. It kind of feels like this is still a little bit too high off. There we go. All right. I'm going to be shooting it like this in a portrait fashion. So if we're going to imagine a box, essentially, we're framing it within a box and then leaving a lot of the background. You'll see that the watch is going to feel like a more heavy piece. So then I threw in the Swiss Army knife next to the watch to balance this side out. And then the cards are also a pretty heavy piece in terms of this bull black. So if we're comparing corners, those are going to be matching. And then there's two other objects on each corner on this side. So in terms of overall weight, that feels very very similar too. Now what I'm gonna do is really just line everything up to make sure that all these lines are completely straight in a horizontal and vertical fashion. Okay, so we're almost to the point where I can pick up a camera and start shooting this flat lay. But the next really important tip is to make sure that you turn off all of your external light sources. Whether it's a giant LED bar in orange or your ceiling lights, we wanna make sure that there's no other lighting influence that gets into the shot. This is a make or break type of situation, so yeah, again, just make sure that you turn off all your lights. I'll go ahead and do that real quick with mine. And the only light that I'm gonna have on is this light, and then of course my key light, which I'll probably turn off here in just a second as well. I'm gonna turn off this light bar, so that's turned off, and then I also have a couple others. One second. Now, if you have an adjustable LED light, you can literally blast the hell out of the subject. Basically, turn the brightness up to 100%. Now, of course, if you're using a window or something like that, you're kind of restricted to the sun, but this is why I like to shoot with artificial light. So essentially, I put this at 100% full blast at 5600K in terms of color temperature. And now what I want to show you is something really important, and basically, we're going to reflect all these shadows. So if we're looking at this, there's going to be some shadows within the objects. And what I would recommend doing is picking up one of these reflector cards off of Amazon. I'll try to leave a link in the description below. And these are really good because we can get rid of some of those shadows and really just make it so that there still are shadows, but we can play with it a little bit more. All right, so we're about ready to start shooting, and this is the fun part, okay? When you actually pick up the camera and start going. The camera that I'm shooting with is a Canon R6 with a 24-105 f4L series lens. Now this setup is pretty damn expensive, so you guys don't have to do this. You can actually just do this on your phone and just use that camera app. Now you can do this on your phone or on a camera. The biggest thing is to have your rulers on. So basically this will help you get the rule of thirds in mind. That's that grid layout that you're seeing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna essentially line up all of the products completely top down and put it within this box, or at least have everything symmetrical within that center box. The hardest part of doing this is essentially lining all of it up and making sure that you are completely still and steady. On top of that, when you're shooting, you're gonna realize that some of the things need to be adjusted and lined up so they're perfectly straight now that you have a ruler to work with. So I'm gonna be shooting this in a vertical fashion. Sometimes I'll empty into post in a horizontal fashion, but I usually freehand this stuff. So when I freehand, I'm actually just being as steady as possible and then lining everything up and taking the shot. So we're just gonna take a few snapshots here. I'll throw up a raw image now so you guys can see that. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll adjust the light placement. So for example, I'll move the light into this corner shining down this way, and then we'll take the bounce reflector card and adjust that just so that way we have a little bit more of a soft shadow. And what we're doing is we're making sure that we have a ton of background area, so that way at the center of the shot, that #1 product is the knife. The background is what keeps everything looking super clean when you do flat lay photos, so that's gonna be super vital that you guys do that. Now that we've got the raw images, let's offload these to the computer, move over to the computer set, and then show you how I edit my photos. All right, we're at the desk. I've gone ahead and offloaded all my photos onto my computer, and we're gonna be editing with Lightroom CC from Adobe. And for those of you guys that want to take this a little bit more seriously in terms of product photography, I highly suggest that you get yourself a photo editing software, because without this, you can't do final touch-ups and really bring the photo to life. I'm going to show you my editing process. This might take a second, who knows? I'll try to cut this down as fast as possible so I can get the information through. We've taken a total of 41 photos. Now this is going to include any macro photos, the flat lay photos, and then also my thumbnail photos for this video. But what I'm going to try to do is go through these photos and see if I can find one that really just aligns and speaks to me. This one's actually pretty decent. As you can see, because I'm freehanding all this stuff, which I could just simply rig up my camera and then do it on a C-stand, I mean, I could get a really simple photo, but I like to do things free flow, so this one is pretty decent. Yeah, I think we're gonna use this one. So the first thing I'm gonna do is crop this photo and make it so that it kind of fits on the Instagram platform. Instagram is primarily where I post everything, so what I'm gonna do is crop it to a 4:5 aspect ratio, essentially this. And the reason why I do that is because Instagram will basically allow you to to post 4x5 photos, and sometimes you'll have people that will post their images like this on Instagram, or even thinner at like 9x16, and this is absolutely horrendous to me. It just makes it so that you don't see the entire frame. And the thing with Instagram is the more screen real estate that you take up in someone's feed, the better it is. So what we're gonna do again is switch this back over to a 4x5, and I'm gonna expand this crop because we want as much of the photo in here as possible. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a look and see how centered that knife is, because we want that to be as center as possible without cutting off too much. So as you can see, some of these tools and other miscellaneous products are gonna be a little bit out of that square box that I was talking about. So again, this is like a rule of thirds lesson. We want everything to be centered if you want to achieve the everyday minimalist style. So once we have it set up like that, I think that looks pretty decent. Our lines are pretty awesome. It looks like everything is lined up really well. The next thing I want to play with is masking. Masking is something within itself. If you guys want to look up tutorials on how to mask, then go for it, but I'm just going to do this really quickly and easily. Essentially what we're going to want to do is play with the background. So I'm just going to hit background here on the mask. It did a pretty decent job overall. I'm going to just go ahead and clean this up with the brush tool. So we're just going to add in some more right here in between and just kind of paint it in with this brush. So now what we can do is play with the saturation and the highlights. So I'm just going to completely kill the saturation in terms of this mask for the background. So as you can tell, if we bring up the saturation, there's going to be a bunch of like random like warmness that's coming in. It's not a flat picture. So we're just going to kill that and then make it so that it's a flat background. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move over into my color mixer, and we're just going to start playing with this stuff here. So as you can see here, if I play with these warm tones, we can actually bring it down and almost kill some of that warmness within the titanium. Adding in that warmth, it just doesn't look right. It just doesn't feel natural. So if we just bring down those hues, it actually makes the objects pop off the screen a little bit more. Let's play with the lighting now. I'm just going to play with this tab until it looks good. So we'll bring up the contrast a little bit. The highlights, we can actually bring out a little bit more, just to get that really nice bright white. We'll play with the shadows here in a second after I apply a mask. Color, temperature, tone, we don't have to mess with those too much because again, we're using all titanium here. I'm just going through here and playing around with these slider tools. Defringe, we can take out all the pinks and the greens. There we go. Now the final touch to this edit is going to be with another mask, and this is a big deal because this is what really makes my photos pop in that sense. This is kind of like the final touch to the everyday minimalist, I guess, style in that sense. So we're going to go to the radial gradient option, create a new mask, radial gradient, and because I positioned the light up here already, that's already going to reflect the shadows. So what I can do is I can make this super large radial gradient, see how big it is, and essentially put it right here. I don't know if anyone else has done this. No one taught me how to do this. I just learned it on my own. But essentially what we're going to do is make that radial gradient and we're going to invert it. So essentially inverting it allows you to, I guess, select this portion of the mask. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop the exposure on this a little bit. Just drop it, just a tad. Okay. It just makes it a lot more dramatic. It makes it a little bit more, I don't know, it brings life to the photo. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Like that's something I would post onto Instagram. Here is the before shot and here is the after. Guys, I mean, this is a really fun way to really bring your feed to life in that sense. I mean, I've already adopted this. This is like my official style. I love doing flat lays. It's my thing, but maybe this will help you inspire to kind of put your own twist on it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a ton of fun making it. I just wanted to share some of my expertise so that way you guys can really just take it and run with it. If you guys want to see more content on EDC photography, whether it's lifestyle shots, if you want me to do more, I guess, camera gear reviews, stuff like that, let me know in the comment section below. If you guys want to share your content and really put this stuff into practice and kind of just share it to the world, make sure that you use hashtag EDM flatlays and I will take a look at all of your photos. Oh, and again, tag me at everyday.minimalist. I would love to see your guys' work. Thank you guys so much for your support and following along with me today. And I guess we'll have to catch you on the next one. Peace out.